Hey guys, it's Sarah with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we have a review and install of the Flowmaster Outlaw Axle-Back Exhaust with black tips, fitting your 18 and newer Mustang GT without the active exhaust. This powerful axle-back exhaust offers that raspy muscle car sound that you're looking for, courtesy of Flowmaster's Outlaw mufflers. This exhaust is constructed from 3-inch mandrel bent tubing and finished off with these 4-inch ceramic-coated black tips. So as far as sound goes, I'm giving this exhaust option a 4 out of 5 on the loudness meter. This does feature Flowmaster's loudest muffler option, but it does still keep the resonator intact, so it takes a little bit of that edge off and it's not quite a straight pipe system. This is going to be for the Mustang owner who wants to save a bit of money over a full catback system. Maybe they already have an X or an H pipe installed, or you just really like the sound of that factory resonator, but you're still looking for one of the loudest axle-back options out there. Coming in at around $600, this is one of the most budget-friendly options you can choose for an exhaust for your Mustang. I'm giving this install a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It does require some cutting for install, but it can be done within 2 hours. So with that said, let's hop right into our install. For this install, we used an exhaust hanger removal tool, reciprocating saw, cutoff wheel, flathead screwdriver, extension, 13mm socket, a deep 15mm socket, tape measure, eye protection, a marker, a hammer, an impact gun, and an angle grinder. All right, so the first step in our uninstall is to grab a 15mm socket and loosen both the nuts on each of these pipes. Next up, we're going to remove these hangers from the subframe. You're going to want a 13mm socket and an extension. We're just going to go right over top of the sway bar. Now you can lift up and flip these out of the way. At this point, we can separate the exhaust from these 2 clamps that we loosened earlier. You may want a mallet, as this will make it a little bit easier to get them off. All right, now that we have our factory exhaust uninstalled from the Mustang, we can put it side by side with the Flowmaster exhaust, really check out some of the similarities and differences. Now, as you can see, we do reuse a portion of the factory exhaust around this resonator, so we're really only replacing the back muffler section. Flowmaster upgrades this section with 3-inch piping when compared to your factory 2.5, and they utilize these Outlaw mufflers, which have a straight-through design and are going to be quite a bit louder than factory. And they finish it off with these nice black tips. They're gonna upgrade the rear of your Mustang. All right, so we have our factory exhaust here and we put our axle back up next to it so we can get an idea of where to cut. Now we're gonna wanna cut 5 inches back from this bend here, which does put it right in the middle of this heat shield. So we will have to cut this heat shield off before we can cut our piping. So to do that, we have a cutoff wheel here and we're gonna start by cutting off the band that holds on this heat shield on the bottom. We need to do this on both sides. Next up, we're gonna make a cut right back here on the weld so that we can flip this heat shield up and break it loose. All right, so now that we've made our cuts back here by the weld, we're just gonna pry underneath the corner here. You can use a flathead or your hands and just rock it back and forth until we're able to break it loose. All right, now this portion is optional. If you'd like, you can grind down this weld a little bit just to take some of the sharp edges off. Because your pipe is gonna slip a little bit farther back, you don't need to do this. All right, so next up, we're gonna measure 5 inches back from this bend on the straight section. This comes to about there. If you're not sure, you can lay your axle back over and just double check. But we're gonna make our mark. Now at this point, you can cut where you made your mark. So now once you've made your cut, if there's any burrs around the piping, it does need to slip into the axle back section. So you might want to just clean those up a little bit to make it a little smoother. All right, so now that this side is complete, we're going to repeat that process on the other side of our piping. All right, once our cuts are complete, we can reinstall the resonator section on our Mustang. Now, if you have taken these clamps off, make sure you put them back at this point. All right, so before we get our axle back section bolted up, we want to reinstall the factory brackets with the rubber bushings over top of this hanger. Next up, we want to get the exhaust installed in this hanger at the back. You don't have to worry about how much for now, just enough to have it supported so we can get the piping attached. All right, so before you get your piping attached, make sure you get the exhaust clamp on there. Now we can go ahead and align our piping. Finally, make sure that the hanger you installed before is lined up on the subframe. Repeat that process on the other side. Now we're going to replace the factory bolts. Grab your 13mm socket and tighten these down. Now we can tighten the clamps on our exhaust starting at the very front. Grab a 15mm socket and tighten these down. Now get the clamps in place on your axle back sections. Grab a 15mm socket and tighten them down. All right, so that is going to do it for the review and install of our Flowmaster exhaust. Remember, for all things Mustang, keep it at AmericanMuscle.com.